Walter Crusoe,
Here. Here.
Gina Sakala,
Here.
Cindy Mangini is not on yet. Marie's not coming tonight.
Correct.
Scott Ryder,
Here.
Tim Neville,
Here.
Doug Maxellin. I didn't see him on. Is he on? Doug, is that you that just popped on?
No, it's Chris Cycling.
Okay, Chris, I'll mark you here also. I just saw one pop up. Tina LeBlanc,
Here.
Wendy Costa,
Here.
Charlotte Riley,
Here.
Bethany Olette,
Here.
Melissa Everett is not on. Jeff Leonowitz, I saw you on, right?
Here.
Okay, there you are. And I don't think Jaime's on yet. And I do have, we've got, it looks like Tom's on and Donald,
Yep.
you're on as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. We all got the minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from July
So
9th?
moved.
Second.
All in favor, show of hands. Tina, you in favor? And Scott's in favor?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep,
So,
I'm in favor.
all present.
Melissa just came on.
Melissa just popped on.
Okay,
Just popped on, sorry. Just
okay,
looking for
that's
the
okay.
invite-
Make
Looking
sure
for the
that-
invite from Deb and it came from Jeff, sorry.
Oh, okay,
I did the same thing.
all right. We have no special guests tonight, except I see Donald Nunes is on here. Donald, are you a special guest? He's incognito, okay. All right, A, the Henry Barnard partial roof replacement phase 1. Do we have the approval of, do we have any monies coming yet, or are we still out there, Chris?
No update for phase 1 and 2.
Okay. How about phase 3? We'll skip right to C because there's no update for either one.
There we
We'll say
go.
same.
So phase 3, Walter and Donna emailed you guys the approval letter, the grant approval letter we got from the state on Tuesday.
Correct.
Tom and I are working to get all of our paperwork and signatures in line tonight. Hopefully we can get the approval from this committee for the plans, specifications, and the cost estimate, which is one of the signatures we need. The next week, I believe we are scheduled to be at the Board of Ed meeting for the second set of signatures we need to go into the state. Simultaneously, Tom and I are going to be working with the building department, the fire marshal, the health department to get their signatures, as well as a few other ancillary signatures I need out of the superintendent's office. And I'm hopeful that I'll be able to get to the state the first week in August for a meeting to review and approve all the paperwork and allow us to award the project. Similarly, I'm going to reach out to the same contractors we did for phase 2 to ask for proposals for this last section so that I can take that to the state as well.
Okay,
So there is the possibility that I will need a special meeting from this committee on, I'm not sure exactly when, but it could be that first week in August to
Okay.
review and approve the contractor, whichever contractor we end up going with, so that a
Okay.
purchase order can be issued.
Okay.
Once we issue the purchase order, then we'll be able to get everything in line to start work, hopefully to have it complete by the end of August.
Really tight frame.
I know that's a lot of information, but yes, it is extremely tight.
Okay, so basically we need to post the day before by noon. And I think this committee, especially with being able to meet virtually, I think we should be able to accommodate a meeting as soon as you need one. Right?
All right, we have a BOE meeting on Wednesday night, so we can do that Wednesday night.
Okay,
And do you need money approval from the council?
what's that?
Do we need any approvals from the council? Because we meet the first week of August.
No, the only approval we needed from council was back in March for the funding authorization, which I submitted that resolution to the state to get our grant commitment letter that we received on Tuesday. So that's the only thing I need.
Okay, great. It's always, I know you tell us that every time, but I like to hear it over and over again.
So
Yeah,
Chris,
nope, I don't need to go back to council for anything. I do know there is
Okay.
a budget adjustment coming up, but that's internally, that is not gonna hold up anything as part of this process.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Chris on item C?
Chris, so email
Yes.
me and Kathy what we need to post on the agenda for next Wednesday.
I will.
And we need a motion to approve this tonight?
We
We're
do.
gonna approve the plans and the specs.
So I
Plan
make,
specs and the estimate, right? The estimate for 301.
so I make a motion to approve the phase 3 of Henry Barnard roof for, what do we need? The state number? The contract, the grant number?
Yes. Yeah, so it's, what's the number? It's,
I can find it.
I just lost my train of thought. It's 049
049
dash 0142
-0142
RR. Capital R, capital R. Two Rs.
RR.
Right.
RR.
Plans and specs and the estimate dated February 28th, 2020.
Plan and estimate dated February 28, 2020.
Correct.
So that's my motion.
Second.
Correct. Do we have a second?
Jim.
I'm sorry, who was that? Wendy? Okay, Wendy seconded. Why don't we do a roll call vote, just so we make sure that it's in the record? Tina, please.
There it is.
Yep, Tina, we can't, you're muted.
Hey, you're muted.
Okay.
There you go.
Try that again. All right, roll call to approve the motion made by Walter. Donna,
4,
Walter,
4,
Gina. 4. All right, Cindy's not here, Marie's not here. Scott,
4.
Tim,
4,
and Doug's not here. Tina, 4. Wendy, 4. Charlotte, 4. Bethany, 4. Melissa,
4.
and Jaime is still not on, I don't think. Okay.
no.
Okay,
that shows, all in favor? None against, no abstentions. So I think we're all set now to move along with phase 3 of the Henry Barnard roof. And this includes approval of the chimney and stuff, which is not reimbursed by the state, correct?
Correct.
Those drawings
That scope
are
is included in
those
this
drawings
phase.
correctly? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Hey, Chris, one more
Yes.
thing. After our meeting Wednesday, do you need the minutes too or no?
No, I just need you to sign the 042 form that I
Okay.
sent out of my email, but don't worry, I'll work with you and Chris.
Yeah,
um,
send it
and
to
Donna tonight
Kathy,
to
and
get
she'll
that
print
signed.
it, and I could go over to central office and have it signed.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
Donna, are you available to sign, or are you on vacation still?
I am available to sign.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you were away. Perfect.
Yeah, so just tell me when and where and I'll be there.
Okay.
same here, we can do it together.
We'll probably just do it at central office next week.
Okay, just, give me a heads up because as you know, I'm out of retirement for a little bit, but I have a flexible schedule.
You're still out of
Okay.
retirement?
Yeah, it's a long, yeah, I know. You- I don't know what to say.
No comment.
No comment from the peanut gallery,
Yeah.
but it's a different job than I did before, so if that's any consolation. Okay, so, the roof management plan. Jeff, I'm gonna turn that over to you. I guess what we're looking for is to review what I would like to bring forward to the council for their review and consideration for the referendum. And I say me, me, Gina, and whoever else is in favor of trying to look to see, do we do this through referendum?
So that plan, I believe I sent out to the committee a couple weeks back was the 13.5.
Correct.
And that was a mix of the elementary schools and municipal buildings. Let me just pull up that exact.
Right. If you can share that with us so we can all, make
Yes,
sure we're on the
absolutely.
same page with what we represent to.
Let me bear with me. Let me get that pulled up for you really quick
That's
and I'll put it
fine.
on the screen.
But there's been we had some pretty torrential rains today. I hope I don't want to listen to anything tomorrow.
Knock on wood, so far, we'll just leave it like that. Everything's been quiet.
Good. Well, that's, consistency is pretty,
Yeah, it does not hurt for sure.
Yeah.
Let me just grab. Is there anything else I can answer while I stumble upon technology and pull that up? Are there any questions?
Okay, you can pull that. In the meantime, we can go on to F, which is the energy performance contract. Is there anything new on that other than, we voted that we are in favor of not having the third party review. Is there anything else we need to follow up on that, or will that just happen?
So, little insight onto that. So I appreciate the committee's support and, pursuing that option. With the Honeywell side of the contract, there isn't necessarily an issue, but this was a lease agreement. So there is another aspect we have to deal with. TD Bank Equipment, who is the lessor. They have some provisions in the contract that have the M&V as a contingency measure for the 15-year agreement on the lease. But I began, digesting that. I'm working with Donald to see, what we can do and if there's any way to move forward but I can't make any promises right now on that. I have to still work with, Director Nunes and, probably Director Wilcox and, possibly attorney. I'm not sure, but, more to come. I'll report back as things evolve.
Because there's been, equipment that's on there that was never, money spent on the performance with the performance contract that, we don't have any baselines on because it's new equipment.
Exactly. So I don't think.
I feel like we're paying for something that's, not a real number.
So the last few times we had some things where it was easily resolved with the lease company with just a phone call and they sent back an email, yay or nay. And I'm hoping
Okay.
that's the case.
Okay.
But, I will definitely keep the committee posted and, we're gonna work to see what I can do. I think with, last meeting and how we're gonna, kind of approach it, I'm gonna use the same report that I gave the committee as, why I think TD would be happy with what we're gonna do in lieu of the M&V. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed and I will definitely share it. So let me just share my screen. This is the
Okay. Thank you.
presentation. It's dated from July 9th, so I apologize for that. Okay, share. Now, can you see this presentation here?
Correct.
Yep.
Okay. So, we saw this before. This was the 13.5, and the boilerplate, the discussion. Do you want me to go through the whole presentation, or do you just want to go to the meat and potatoes?
Why don't you quickly go through it and get to the meat and potatoes?
No problem. So kind of, on this slide, we're going over the discussion topics, industry averages, the condition analysis, the history of, town roofing, our current roof strategy, what we're proposing for roofs 2020 as a strategy, a little bit more explanation, a potential timeline for the roofs referendum, and then, DPW's recommendations. Excuse me. So, this is just kind of industry average with ages, built up roofing, 15 to 30 years, modified, built up. What I'm going to really do is I want to focus on the material that we have in our portfolio. Built up, modified, built up, EPDM, ballasted EPDM. TPO is a new product that we're using on the high school. So that has a 20 to 25 year life. Standing metal seam, which is only one at the moment, which is the senior center. And then asphalt shingles, I think everybody's really familiar with. The lowest lifespan is asphalt shingles. 15 to 20 years is about what you're going to get out of them. You might get 30. For the long or the short, all roofing material is on average about a 25, 30-year product. That's your average. There are always exceptions to the rules, but just holistically saying roofing is good for about 25 years, and you should be looking for a new system as the system becomes too old to really, invest in for repair. You're just working on borrowed time at that point. And then on this slide, I'm just kind of showing where some of these roofing systems exist in town. Built up was a really common practice for decades. In the era of our construction, built up, modified, built up, those cover the lion's share of our schools across town and our larger buildings like the annex and whatnot. So that is probably the lion's share. Next with EPDM, that was a product that was heavily used to places like La Manja, the flat part of 110 High Street have the EPDM. Ballasted is, luckily we only have one type of this roof, and that is Hazardville Memorial School. Probably the least favorite product in our portfolio for me because there's a lot of associated issues with it. Asphalt shingles, well, they make sense on our smaller roofs for our municipal buildings. They're, typical, 10, 12 pitch deal, very common. Everyone has them on their house for the most part. They're a good product, very, very good product for our climate, especially with steep pitch roofs, if you will. Low slope being all our large commercial buildings. TPOs are new systems that we've turned to. The JFK is going to have that when it's completed. The high school has it. Henry Barnard, phase 1 and 2 and phase 3 will have the TPO system. It's very similar to EPDM. It has some advantages. It's a little bit more chemical resistant. It's a very slick surface, so it doesn't like to stuff that could stand in standing water doesn't like to grow on it. So it has advantages over EPDM. It's also very reflective, so that's good for shedding heat load versus that dark black EPDM surface that adds a lot of heat to a building. The metal standing seam. It's our senior center on the outside parapets, the carport area. That's a system, depending on the type and how it was installed, can be a very robust system or a very heavy maintenance system. And it's not necessarily deferred maintenance that caused the failure. The particular standing seam that we have has a neoprene screw gasket, and they're exposed. Those gaskets are the failure point to the standing seam, and you have to replace the thousands of screws and gaskets to keep the system tight. So there are better systems that we could put up there. There's certainly better metal standing seams. So I don't want to say too much about it. Going into the condition analysis, kind of the industry kind of goes excellent, good, fair, marginal, poor. Excellent would be pretty much a new roof, no visible defects, 3 years in age or less. A good roof is, it has some slight deterioration. And I don't necessarily like the word deterioration because it makes it sound bad. It would be, what you'd expect for wear and tear on the system as it ages. So it would be normal. There's fair, which is moderate, wear and tear, but it's not exceeding the useful lifespan. It's still something you could repair and it would still be a very viable roofing system to maintain. Marginal is when you're starting to see like real deterioration. You're having the seam spread. You're getting the pulling of the expansion joints. Everything's at the far extremes, and there's really nothing to do with at that point it's time for replacement. You can't really do much. You're starting to get to that borrowed time point, and then you go into poor, which is critically damaged. Systems that are just they're failing at every point. You're chasing leaks. From I wasn't here for phase 1 and 2 of Henry Barnard, but from the looks of it and some of the stuff that was going on in the community, that would be a very good example. Luckily we've had the phase 1 and 2 that address those poor condition areas, but that would be the best example of a poor condition roof system for those early phases that we fortunately don't have to deal with anymore. This is kind of a condition analysis of the town holistically. It includes the lion's share of the bigger buildings that are heavily operated. It has Henry Barnard, Hazardville, and it kind of just rates the system. So when this was put together, I ended up getting a consultant to come with me, and we physically went out to all the roofs. And I have an individual report with pictures and drawings of where all the scuppers were, and it took us probably about 8-9 weeks to go out there and do this in the field. So it involved myself, buildings and grounds, and a roofing consultant. We built this portfolio together. We went and physically walked out on the systems on every single one of the roofs across town. That the committee early on expressed interest in a roofing referendum back in had to be probably August, September of 19. So this was kind of one of those early forefronts, and this kind of shows us in that the data collection, the ages of the roof, the square footages, and that rating system of fair, good, the types, and it kind of gives us like a roadmap. What are we going to do from here? And that kind of builds into what the referendum and what I'm suggesting for the 13.5, how we should spend it. Here, I'm just going to kind of go over, I think it's very important to visualize what a good roofing system looks like for the rating. So, here, I talked about an excellent roof system. So this is Henry Barnard. This is pictures from right before they finished phase 2. You can see the TPO product. It's, everything's on it. Extremely brand new. It's I think this picture, it's days old. So, I mean, you can't get much fresher than this. And this is the ideal roofing system to have in place, something that's in excellent to good condition. There's the least amount of related issues and upkeep that go along with it. The next one is a good roof. This has minor wear that I was talking about. Nothing that's out of the ordinary. It's just the typical wear and tear that you get from being exposed to the sun. So being a roofing system, this is the part of the building that has the most exposure to the elements. It's always in the sun. It's always being rained on. It's always getting snowed on. It's just taking the beating of a lifetime. This is the part of your building that just really gets hammered and never ever gets any let up from it. And you can kind of see, some small things, some small ponding. Nothing that is a real big issue. These are all easily maintained, which we do have a maintenance system in place that we have with, on-call roofing and inspections, and our people go out and do cleanings and keep all that stuff up to snuff. And to keep a system like this is we go out, we look at the seams, we look at the joints, we look for something above it and beyond the ordinary, and we can address it. So if something was starting to look a little odd or pull apart, we can easily fix that, and it doesn't affect the overall integrity of the system. So it's something that we can continually maintain and make small fixes and adjustments, and you're not hurting the system as a whole. Here's, fair condition. So this is, something where you're starting to get to that, starting to show its age a little bit. You're starting to get a little bit more depression and indenting. You're starting to see some of the repairs I like this picture. It shows the senior center standing metal seam, and I think you can kind of see all those screw heads. So the metal itself is fine, it's the joints. And trying to get people up there with scaffolding and big bucket trucks and all this stuff to replace all those screws is a nightmare. So I don't want to call it, the quickest way out of it, but industry practices, they tend to use a EPDM type of flashing, roll it over the joints where you're having your issues, seam it over with their I call it roofing caulk, that really gooey sticky stuff, and that's how you make the repair. This is one of those products where they're a real fight to really keep the integrity on, especially if you have hard access. As we know, metal roofs are a nightmare to work on because they're slick. The angles that you can put them on are very difficult to work over. So there's a lot of challenges for this particular system. I don't want to say anything bad about metal as a whole in the industry, but there's definitely applications of certain products that you could consider in different ways. Maybe that might not be the best fit for everything. Same thing with the other EPDM roof on the other side. You're starting to see a little bit more sagging in the sublayers, the insulation. It's just it's not horrible. It's not bad. It's that late model car where you drive it because it's still okay. You fix it, but you have to start at this point. It's time to start thinking. I'm going to be replacing in like that 7 to 10 year window, give or take. Then you get into the marginal. These are roofing systems that are, do we fix it? Do we not fix it? Do we replace it? Do we, there's really not a lot to do. You're starting to get to a point where you're at no return. You're really working to that borrowed time. And I believe this picture is on one of the schools, and you can see where you have these expansion joints butting up against a different roofing membrane system, and you have a built up in all this black, if you can see where my hand's rolling over, all this black bubbling stuff, that's the tar beneath the rock. And as that ages, it bubbles up, it turns into, I call it crispy critters. When you stand on it, it crunches. That's actually a really bad thing because the water gets into those porous pockets, gets below those membranes, and that's what causes your leaks. So this is a point where the only way to really fix it, you put more tar over the top of it, and you're kind of just band-aiding it along. These EPDM systems, you're starting to see like the seam tapes where the overlaying membrane, they come like in 10-foot, 8-foot, 12-foot rolls, however long they're seamed together. You're starting to see these seams deteriorate in the other picture on the left. At this point, you can fix it, but when your seams start pulling apart like that, the problems are starting to get to the point where you're at no return. Next is here's a perfect example of a pore system. We have a ballasted roof with extensive ponding. We have you see on the other pictures where there's the lead copper flashing and just the ballasting tearing away. And the issues that I have with a ballasted roof is they're not adhered to the membrane below. So all that insulation and foaming below the membrane, there's nothing, there's no glue, there's no mechanical fastener that keeps that there. The only thing that holds that system down is the glue on these seams and the rocks. And as the failures occur and the rocks shuffle around, it pulls in and it bubbles up. And then you get a leak on anywhere in this roof, it can go literally anywhere. So you can have a leak 3,000, and I mean, that's probably a little exorbitant, 3,000 feet, but just, you can have a leak on the other side of the building, dripping nowhere near where it's coming through, and you're chasing your tail forever. There's really nothing you can do at this point when it's more or less delaminating. It's pretty much game over. It's failed. It's a failed system, and you just need to, you're just chasing your tails and putting little band-aids on here and there, and you're just chasing leaks around the building, and it's a pain. So that's kind of what visually these conditions look like. This graph kind of shows like a current roofing condition and index. And what the blue is showing is the average age. The green is showing the numbers of facilities that kind of land in that age group. You can kind of see that the excellent, the good, the fair, it's kind of flat. And then there's a really high curve to high number of facilities with that have a very high age. We start hitting an average age of about 25 years on these roofing systems for, you know, approximately 12, 13 facilities. That's quite a bit to have an average roofing age of 26. So, I mean, that, you know, when we went over that condition analysis, where they would be rated and, you know, lifespans of roofing systems, before I was talking about, you know, what is an average roofing system? 25 years. What is our current average roofing age? 25 years. So we're kind of at this, we're at this point where we are going to be, if we do not do something, we'll be forced to do something. And what the forcing will be would be a catastrophic roofing system failure. That, you know, at that point, you know, you'd just be, you can't patch it. You'd be ripping it off and just putting a new system on, you know, wherever it was. So kind of, you know, it is what it is, I guess. So kind of a history of what's going on with the roofs across town. 2009, the Department of Public Works assumed responsibility for all of the Board of Education properties, which included 13 sites, totaling over 1.07 million square feet of building. That is a huge building stock portfolio to manage. Where, you know, before on a municipal side, you're talking 400,000 square feet of, you know, building. So you just pretty much, you know, doubled your, you know, whoa, hello, all this real estate to now invest in. So, you know, DPW now manages this asset, and, you know, we're looking to, you know, see what we can do. So, you know, over 400,000 square feet of roof area is pretty much made up of our 6 primary schools, including the Eagle Academy. So if you kind of look at these 13 sites and, you know, how much they're made out of, it turns out that the schools are the lion's share of the roof because they're just larger buildings. And luckily, we've had a new high school put on. So that has a newer roof. You know, it's already 5 years old, but that's a very large roof system right there. You're talking a 198,000 square foot roofing system on top of Enfield High. You know, not too far from that is the Annex, which is another extremely large roofing system at, you know, roughly 168,000 square feet. So we do have a few very large buildings that take up most of the roofing systems. But on average, you know, an elementary school is about 45 to about 57,000 square feet of roofing. So when you have, you know, 6 elementary schools that need a roof replacement times that average, it's a, you know, like you just end up with this real big number to kind of wrap your head around. So that's how this kind of came about. And the current roof strategy that, you know, we've been kind of going through is roofing at pre-referendum limits, which has its, you know, advantages and disadvantages. The big disadvantage, I guess, it really kind of, you know, it's about a 3-year effort to replace an elementary school's roof system. You know, give or take based on its size. We're experiencing that right now with the 3rd phase of Henry Barnard. The other disadvantage is each phase could potentially buy less roof because of inflation. You never know what happens year to year. Traditionally, you know, inflation goes up 3% or so. And it is what it is. You're buying you could potentially buy 3% less roof. Which means that pre-referendum limit doesn't buy the same square footage as the year prior. And the other thing too is, you know, our current roofing strategy, we're spending about $76,000 a year to fix leaks, and those are just the contractor coming out to make repairs. This doesn't incur other costs like changing ceiling tiles, or the leaks damaging the smoke detectors, or, you know, the fire alarms going off in the middle of the night and, you know, people coming in to vacuum up the mess, drying the carpets. You know, there's a whole there's a whole production that we've witnessed before, and there's another cost that's harder to quantify. But this is just from what we spent on our roofing contractor. So I mean, it's a large amount of money, and you're not really getting anything out of that, unfortunately. So the strategy that this committee's kind of talked about is, how can we make it very equitable, address our big concerns across both the municipal and Board of Education side, so we get the best bang for our dollar. And I think that $13.5 million investment is going to give us the best outreach. With that being said, I'm estimating about $7.9 million in state reimbursements for eligible roofs. So that's a very good reinvestment from the state. If we're eligible for all that, obviously it's all speculative at this point, so there's no applications at this, for this, but just going by what we've done before in the past, that's a good outlook. This is going to replace approximately 383,000 square feet of roofing that is approximately 30 years old, which is really good. That can, that's going to position us better in the future, where we can start putting focus on other items that need to be addressed. And I know everyone on this committee has been involved with it a lot longer than myself, and I know you all know what's going on. So there's bigger fish to fry than just roofs, and I can see it on the agenda where we want to put some focus on next. So it'd be nice to get this off the plate for sure. So this is the strategy that I'm proposing with that 13.5 million, and what that gives us is the public safety complex, Eli Whitney School, Hazardville Memorial, Parkman, Stowe, Prudence Crandall, Alcorn, Enfield Street, Senior Center, and Central Library, and then a very small for miscellaneous roofing repairs. This would be approximately a 5-year project. I'm trying to it seems like the roads referendum, everybody's kind of used to that 5-year phase construction, and it seems to work for the town. So I want to align it with what the people could see. This would be a 5-year project. And the way I have them listed right here, this would be the phase that we kick off. So you're seeing, the 21-year, and that's the opposing colors. So the first 3 in white would be the first year to go. The 2 in blue would be the next year to go. And what that would also do would be, by scheduling like this, we can start issuing RFPs, much like roads. Get our first set, issue some bonding out. Do we have to start working on other RFPs, RFIs, RFQs? Because there's going to be a lot of committee involvement in meetings. And we'll just be for about 5 years talking a lot about roofs. Probably when we're done, if this goes through, no one's going to want to talk to me about a roof for a while. They're all going to want a break, and that'd be but that'd be a good thing, because that'd be a big accomplishment. So this is what I'm thinking, and I would like to pause now, because I don't know if anyone has any questions that they might want to ask, or would you like me to keep going?
That's a good idea, Jeff. I'm going to open it up to questions, and I actually can't really, let's see, I can see everybody's hands, but it's like hard to see everything. So I'll count on people to be conscious and just speak up and ask their questions. Any questions? All right, is everybody happy with the blend of what we have for roofs?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that was a very well put together and reasonable presentation.
I think it is. I think it gives everybody an understanding of everything. I think we've got the worst of all the roofs up there as far as both municipal and school side. Any other comments, questions, concerns before Jeff continues?
No.
Because it's what we asked for. It was around $13.5 million. But the town, the codicil is that We're asking to spend 13.5, but we're gonna get what, 7 point something back?
Yeah,
on
we're
the-
basically getting $20 million worth of roofs for 13.1.
And I have some logic behind
Yeah, I
that
don't know
in
if
the,
I think
in the
about it that
slides.
way. I think I'm getting $13.5 million worth of roofs for
Like
$5 million.
7.9
Is kind of how I like to think of it.
Yeah, my only comment would be if the people on this committee are supportive of this and they're happy with this number, that you really take the time to email all your councilmen and let them know that you support this and the time and the effort that this committee has put into it. It's great that us on this committee spend all this time, and Jeff has probably dedicated half a year, if not more, to this project alone. So I would implore you, if you do support this, then please email all of the council members and let them know that you support it, why you support it, and if you have logic behind it, do so.
To that
Thank you.
point, Gina, I would say not only the folks on this committee, but as well as anybody watching. I mean, you can see
Yeah,
that our roofs
absolutely.
need work. And-
Anybody.
And if it takes us 3 years to fix one school roof, and we have 6 schools on this list and more buildings, in addition to just the 6 schools, we'll be working on this forever and ever and ever.
It's taken us 5 years to get somebody out onto all the roofs to do a roof evaluation.
Right.
I mean, Tim and Walter were original members to this committee, and they will tell you that, you know, we've been looking to have this done for a long time. And just for Jeff to tell us that, you know, they've been out there for 6 to 8 weeks looking at roofs and evaluating all the roofs and having a full understanding of the roofs. This was something that, you know, we knew years and years ago. It's just been very slow coming.
Donna is right, and I think it's, the best thing that's going on in the 5 years is that we currently have a plan. We had no plan before, and I think that was the biggest issue, was getting a roof was an event, and mostly it was because we didn't have a catastrophic failure, but we had a failure. And right now that we're talking about those things, we're educating both the council and the town, I think that's a positive. My only fear is what's gonna happen if we don't get a referendum. That's
Well, right.
that's my biggest issue.
Then we have another plan, and this town is wonderful at doing studies and plans and not following through with any of them, which is exactly what's going to happen here. So has this been presented to the council yet? And if not, can we do that in August?
That was what I was hoping for the first
That is the
August
plan.
meeting, that this would be the presentation that would prompt, that would be the codicil to setting the date for the public hearing.
Okay. All right, we're going to have to do that quick.
Right.
Yes.
So,
So we're all, and I think Gina's good suggestion is you talk to people, and also if we get this as far as getting a public hearing, we get the people who understand what we're saying and what we're doing to come and to speak at the public hearings and to offer their suggestions. I mean, we're not the first people to have to deal with maintenance of buildings, and needs to.
Yep.
Because it gets 4% more expensive every year. And I emailed everybody the spreadsheet that, gee, I want to say 3 years ago, we presented Tim to the council, the summary. And at that point, it was $10 million to do all the roofing that we needed. And now we're over 13. So time is not kind.
Donna, it took us 2 years to put together that spreadsheet just to find the data.
Yep.
And at least we have right now, thanks to Jeff and all the folks here, and the DPW has taken it over, we have a system that's collecting that data and actually going up and looking at the roofs. So those are pluses. Without getting a referendum through yeah, I think Gene is right. We'll have another plan and we're gonna have a failure. And that's the bad
And
part.
we've already been told that, you know, and this is not that the roof is going to collapse. This is that the membrane is
Right.
going to fail, not the steel, not the, you know, the wood trusses, the membrane, and allow too much water in. Those are not, by our charter, considered emergencies. So we will still be constrained by the charter as to what we can expend as monies to fix this. And we've already seen what 3 phases, how that costs us more money than 2 phases. So we have to be smarter about what we do. I always say, just because you didn't spend a dollar doesn't mean you saved it. So
But Donna, I think it's not just the roof, and I agree with you, it's not gonna be the trusses and all this stuff. But what it is gonna be is damage to the interior of the building, okay? And whatever happens with that, with mold or whatever else happens to it, that's a whole nother set of expenses that we would have to do because these
Right.
buildings are heavily used.
which Jeff does enumerate in his, you know, in his.
Yes, he does.
That, you know, you have electrical things, you have a lot of other things. I mean, you know, we just, you know, just remember at the Alcorn building, and I don't see the Alcorn is on there. That Alcorn building, the top floor is all our IT.
So I just wanted to chime in really quick and make a couple quick comments and kind of just, you know, back up what the committee members and Deputy Mayor said. When I said a catastrophic roofing failure, Deputy Mayor is correct. It is for the system only. It does not mean any physical harm or roof collapses. And I just, you know, for whoever's watching, I don't want people panicking. And what would be a catastrophic failure would be a leak that you can't fix, where you're forced to change the roofing system. No one would actually get physically hurt. And I just want to make that abundantly clear, just for whomever's watching, because I don't want mass hysteria. So that is not the case. There's no imminent collapses or anything like that happening. So, you know, thank you, Deputy Mayor, for mentioning that. 'Cause that's a very good point.
That's okay. We're always explaining stuff like that. All right, so Jeff, you want to finish up what you're gonna?
Absolutely.
present?
So while we're on this current slide, what I wanted to point out was kind of what I like about it is the committee made some comments. They wanted to see, you know, could we be solar ready moving into the forward? And I think, yes, we can make these systems solar ready, and that would be part of the design. When we're up there changing a roof system, a lot of people are looking at solar as an option, and we can be smart about this as a committee, as a town, you know, especially with the Green Energy Committee being, you know, part of joint facilities. It would be worth our interest, because it really doesn't cost anything at this point when we're already doing so much work on the roof. Because these costs that are associated with, it's not just taking rubber off and putting rubber down. These are going right down to the roofing deck, removing insulation, changing flashings, changing the deck if it's needed. So these are very intensive roofing jobs that replace the plumbing and the stacks. So, you know, looking at it and seeing, you know, what we can do for solar up there wouldn't really do too much in the way of harm at that point. So if there was a time where the town felt ready that they'd want to have solar, they would have new roofs to do it on. And, you know, we could look at, you know, power purchase agreements and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I thought that was just kind of something fun to put in there. And then, you know, reimbursements, you know, I think it's very good to see where you're reimbursed. And on this chart, where you see Ys for all the yeses, there's quite a few on there. So there's a lot of eligible roofs that we can work with. And, you know, we'll touch upon that as I keep sliding through. So let's go to the next slide here. You know, so the proposed strategy. Henry Barnard roof is replaced, you know, phase 3. We're working that right now. And that will get, you know, that elementary school, you know, through CIP. It's good. All those 30-year-old sections are off of our table. The referendum funding will complete the remaining 30-year-old elementary school roofs. So those 30-year-old roofs, they're gone. We're at that end of roofing system life. We're out of the woods on that one. The 5-year referendum, you know, it's going to address both school and municipal roofs. And, the referendum is going to address roofs that are not practical to capitalize at pre-referendum levels. So what I want to say is not every roof needs a referendum. The municipal roofs are much smaller and much more cost effective, where we can do that through traditional CIP. And we don't have to go at, phase 1, phase 2, phase 8, wherever you go. So this referendum gets everything that, we're going to be going. It would not be a good place to keep, splitting them up. And I'm going to kind of use Henry Barnard Phase 3 as a good example. For the size of that building, 3 phases is a little much. And then there's a small project contingency budget for, just to have, and we can also use it to a continuation list. If these numbers include environmental concerns, they include a lot of contingency for extra damage, which we won't know until we build. So these are some pretty heavy figures, and they're worst case scenarios if we have to hit all those things like we saw at some of the other projects that we're currently working on. So these, if things are going well, and hey, maybe building materials go down in prices, things change. I'm planning on, what is costing us today. I don't know what the future will do. So I have a continuation list we can look at if we're on budget, exceeding budget, or, it is what it is. I wanted to talk about the state reimbursement. So there's a potential of 7.9 based on what we've been getting from Henry Barnard, what, JFK's been getting. And we can use that to pay down the 2020 roof debt. So what that's saying is the town would be only liable for the $5.1 million for $13.5 million of work. So you're talking roughly, like right around 2/3 the cost is being submitted back to us in a reimbursement, which is not bad. That's a lot of, for $5.1 million and getting all that work, replacing close to 400,000 square feet of roof. That's a pretty wise use of money. So it's very good. Or the town council will need to continue through DPW and our CIP. We're going to have to continue reinvesting. So I don't want this roofing referendum to be the end all be all. We all forget about roofs. This program is really getting us to a new attitude, which is a roof a year. For the size of our portfolio, for the size of our community, we need to be thinking a roofing job. Every summer, we should expect Enfield to do a roof. And that's the attitude I want to get. And it's a good attitude to have, because what that does is you're accustomed to it. It's built into your DNA. You just know you have to do a roof. And you're not where we are at the current moment. You're always staying on that cusp, because when we're all done, it doesn't seem like 25 years seems like a long time, but the high school's already 5 years old. and when JFK is brand new, it's going to be 7. We're going to be right in the middle of its roofing expectancy. We're going to want to plan to start replacing that roof. And then I hate to say it, as soon as we're done replacing it at Enfield High, we're going to be looking to do JFK's roof, and everybody's like, we just redid it. Well, that was 20 years ago. and then I'll be pushing retirement age, and I'll hand the torch over to the next person, and they'll be going and taking care of it. So here's my continuation.
A lot of torch passing.
Absolutely. When I'm ready to retire, I'm ready to stick in for quite a while. So depending on our budgets and what happens with the cost, if there's some extra room, and this is what I was talking about, municipal roofs are not expensive. I mean, they're not cheap, but in the grand scope of what it takes to do an elementary school, like an Eli Whitney at 2.2, you're talking town hall like 129, 130,000. The big cost for these roofs are really the scaffolding. Your very steep roof, it's hard to access, but they're small. They're well within the traditional CIP planning budget. But if we have money available, these are some buildings I'd like to target. And I know depending on how these referendums are worded, when they go to the other phases, I'd like to have them in there. So if we are on target and we are on budget and we have money available inside the scope, I know roads did it with a continuation list of roads to go to. If things are going well. I would like that to apply. So we can just keep rolling with it. We have the money, we're not, we already have our reimbursements from the state. This is what else we can do. We can start chewing away at that additional portfolio and get like maybe a year 6 out of Roofs 2020, which would be awesome. So town hall, animal shelter, EMS, Old Town Hall, DPW here at, Jablonski, Pearl Street Library. They're young now, but at the end of Roofs 2020, they're going to be 20, 25 years old. So these roofs that are here now, if we can do them, they're going to be coming up due anyway. So it would make sense for that year 6 to just, if we can execute, let's execute it. Let's do it. Moving on from there, just kind of like more why we chose what we chose. So Roofs 2020, the list was, completed by a town-wide roofing survey, utilizing the building department data to verify roof ages along with site investigations. These investigations were conducted with town staff like myself in buildings and grounds with a roofing expert, utilizing a non-destructive investigation method. So what non-destructive is, we did everything come short of taking a core sample, which would be drilling out and kind of really analyzing it. So, we poked, we prodded, flashlights, temperature readers, the whole 9. We went up there, cameras. It looked like, the roof was having a doctor's visit. I probably could have had a stethoscope on at one point. We were getting so deep into the flashing. Why is that important? Because you have to understand what you're doing. And I know I say roads a lot, but I know the town's familiar with the roads program. They have that pavement condition index, and this is kind of not the same process, but kind of similar. They go out there and they continually look because as you know, things move on, they age, they need to be replaced. The service life and deterioration extent of the roofing systems, where the use of, these were the driving factors: the age, the deterioration, and also like what the building served. And why is that important? Because if you look at an elementary school, if you had a roofing system that you couldn't use, and I can't even believe I'm saying this, but especially in this COVID period, where are you going to put the kids? You couldn't put classrooms somewhere else right now because of spacing requirements. So if we lose a wing, there's a very high chance that there's a school that could not go to school, and now you're displacing, I'm not sure what the enrollment is, but you're displacing a very large portion of children from having the ability to go to that school because the roofing failed. Not that it's, you just can't have a kid sitting underneath a dripping ceiling. That's just not a good thing to do. So that's why this order is like really important. PD's up there as one of the first ones because it has a shingle system that was put on in '93. They already experienced one very expensive failure in the evidence room, which is probably something we really don't want to leak water on. And they're a 24-hour operation with everything that's going on. We really can't, have a, that's, again, we talk about programming. That's a very important programming building for here, for what it does. Our emergency communication system is in there, the 911. So, I mean, there's a lot going on in that building. So that's why I really want to stress its age, deterioration, and the programming. That's why that order is, in my opinion, the most logical to approach. Because you can't just do all these roofs in 1 year. It's not really a practical thing. That's a lot of roofing contractors, a lot of roofing material. Doing 2 roofs that size, I would say, are very manageable. And then what are some funding alternatives? So, I know everybody's kind of talked about that. So without a referendum, realistically, multiple CIP projects for roofing would need to be funded at pre-referendum limits simultaneously. This would delay roof replacement and likely incur greater year-to-year expense in leak repairs. Inflation costs will reduce actual roof replacement power and square footage, prolonging our roofing issues. So realistically, if we were to do this, mimicking the Henry Barnard method, you're talking 3 buildings having 3 phase 1 projects a summer. So that would be 3 buildings for about 3 years, and then going on to another 3 buildings for 3 years. You're spending the 1 point something million anyways, but you know, it's just it's doable. That's the facts. That's what we would have to do. You know, Public Works through the joint facilities committee. That would be what we would need to do to keep us moving forward, which is, you know, not a great place to be, but you know, I just wanted to share that with you. That's the reality of where we are today. But it's not all doom and gloom. So, you know, in this, it's kind of a process flow map of, you know, where are we going to go for, you know, referendum. We kind of moved to here, and now we're starting to get into the hot seat, where we need to have that last day to, you know, to approve the questionnaire for the November ballot, which I want to believe is in September 3rd, somewhere in there.
September 3rd.
Okay, so being July 23rd, everybody knows where we are. So, you know, I think that color is a very good indicator of where we are. We are in the hot seat. So there's a lot of action that needs to move forward in a very short period of time. So it's not impossible, but it's going to require an immense amount of support and a lot of laser focus to do the last remaining 2 steps. And then, you know, adequately putting this out there to the public and advertising, because we're going to want people to, you know, vote in favor of this. And I think it's very important to do this. And it's going to be a very challenging road, but it's not impossible. And, you know, from this map, you know, again, it's a tight time frame. And then, you know, DPW, you know, what I'm saying, you know, we've gone over this. We thought about this. You know, I've spent a lot of hours just turning this over. If anybody wonders what I'm doing over the weekend, I'm thinking about windows and roofs and boilers. So, you know, we're recommending, it's in the interest, you know, to protect the town's investment in the building programming and the service capabilities that Roofs 2020 program, you know, needs to be implemented. So, you know, these buildings that we identified are very important for the community. They're school buildings, they're big community cultural centers, the senior center, the library. These are important to everyone in this town. So it's not just, you know, it's a one side to it. This is the whole town. So these are very important, and nobody wants to see these buildings closed because, you know, while we replace a roof and inconvenience them. This gives us the power to do it in a manageable fashion at a reasonable time frame and get positive results without inconveniencing people. We can do these on the summer, on off times, and schedule around things. So this gives us the control. So catastrophic roof system that needs to get done, we lost our power because we can't control the process. The process is telling us, replace us. Now we're saying, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to replace. We can communicate to everyone to let them know. Roofs 2020 will address the remaining primary schools. They're old roofs. Those older systems are 30 years old. They really don't owe us $1 at this point. They did their job, and now it's time for them to be in retirement and a new system put on. Roofs 2020 will provide us adequate time and, you know, for DPW and town council to save for future roofing investments. And what I touched about, a roof a year, that's the goal. That's the ideal place to be. And that's not a bad thing. That's what us as a town should do. And doing Roofs 2020.
Especially when you have 39 of them or more.
There's the 2020 referendum is going to address some of those ones that we really can't phase in a practical sense. You know, the elementary schools are tough just because the the way they're built. You have those wings with the classrooms. You know, it's not a practical phasing approach. And then, you know, Roofs 2020 kind of solves that headache that we've grappled and all the scheduling. And we all know how phase one was doing a roof on the weekends. It's a,
Right.
you know, you want to do it over the summer. This gives us the ability, kids are on summer vacation. It's, you know, custodians doing their thing. We're up there changing a roof. We're not affecting the school. We don't have to worry about the kids, the parents driving in the buses. It's a big logistic nightmare. So that's what I'm recommending. And that's why I think this 13.5 is the best way to address it. And at that time, thank you for listening to me for an hour or so. So I appreciate you not yelling at me.
You're gonna have to get it a little shorter for the council.
No, I'm with you on that one, but I really wanted to, I know the committee had a lot of interest. I really want to try to take my time and explain
Right,
everything.
Right,
to the
and
committee.
I think that you know, you listened to what we said last time when we had this all schools and we had, you know, it too big a referendum and trying to do too much. And I think that, you know, for me, how I want to sell it is I get, you know, $13.5 million done for town expense of 5.1. I mean, that's, you know, that if you look at it over 5 years is under the referendum. So, okay, so I guess my job is to get it to come before the council. So,
Jeff,
all right,
Jeff,
Yeah.
okay, on
Can
to
you-
the next item on the
Jeff.
agenda.
Well,
I
can
always-
I ask-
hold on, Donna,
We started
hold
this
on.
committee, I've
Jeff.
always promised that I'd be an hour and a half at the most, so I better hustle. The energy
Donna.
performance contract, do we have any new information?
Hello,
Donna, Walter wants to talk.
hold on.
Oh, Charlotte,
Well, Walter wants
Jeff,
to
can
talk.
you
I have a question
talk
too.
us about reimbursement?
It was approximately 7.9, I believe.
If you do 13.5 minus 7.9, it comes out with 5.6,
oh,
5.1.
Okay.
nice, Jeff, I'm reading your math and not checking it.
Good catch, Walter. I'll fix that.
Yeah, just in case somebody questions it, we want to be,
You
We wanna be
want to be honest and forthcoming. Understandable.
exactly.
I do
All right,
have a
that's my only
question.
comment. You can continue, Donna.
No, I have a question, please.
Okay, Wendy, go ahead.
Um,
You know, Jeff, can you unshare your screen so I
Absolutely.
can see more people? Thank you.
Oh, hi, everybody.
At what point is the decision made, and who makes it, around whether that reimbursement is used to pay down debt or to perhaps do more roofs or whatever?
That, if it's done through referendum money, it has to be
used.
stated in the referendum.
Right.
If the money comes to the council, they can do whatever they want because it's going to go back into the general fund and be reallocated to wherever it needs to be. I think that although for us, I know there's this sense that we'd like to control every penny, but I think that we're going to have to do a give and take on this. And I think that, you know, saying, you know, there's going to be $7.9 million coming back to you from the state that hasn't been earmarked for anything else. I think that that may be a selling point, but
Donna?
I'm not sure.
Can
Tim,
I add something?
go ahead. Who's first here? Charlotte and then Tim?
No, let Tim go.
Tim, then Charlotte.
The third choice is the sinking fund, because that does go back into that. When we have that money for that sinking fund and we gradually build it up, we can dump that right back in to do roofs or whatever project was specifically set up to do, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Charlotte, you're up.
So what if there's a third option that I am running through the back of my mind, and I know not everybody might agree with me, and that's okay, but it's just another idea. We need the windows done too. So
That's
why
on
can't
discussion
we-
for the next, that's on the agenda.
Right, but let me just go there with this for a second. What if we took like 2 roofs, 2 schools and their windows and put it in a referendum now, coming up, right? So now you got 2 schools, security with the windows and the roof. Then next year, we're already jumping on, we already know what we got to do. Put everything else, the roof and the windows all together for everything else. So you already got something going to get people to bite on it, because we're in the middle of a pandemic. People are losing their jobs. We got to pay. We're probably going to have to pay out of the nose to get whatever we need to get the schools reopened in less than who knows how many. I mean, we're going to be spending gobs of money. The state's not going to give us any money for that. So there's a lot of money going out the door. So if we can get our foot started small, and then next year go at it, because we'll have the 4th of July to be able to go out and promote the whole thing. We'll be able to go knocking on doors then. Like, right, I'm worried that we're going to spend all this time and all this effort. We won't be able to get the word out to as many people as we usually do. And then it's going to fail. But if we can put something out there that somebody looks at who's not on this committee and might not be involved in the town at all, but as a resident, they're like, okay, that's reasonable. 2 roofs and the windows for that schools. That's just a thought.
I think going out with something that's just 2 schools is too specific. What I really like about this roof referendum is it has a blend of town roofs. So you get your police, your, the understanding that they need roofs, the senior center needs roofs, the library needs roofs. I think it's more of a blended approach. The least bang for your buck on getting windows done, although windows, they're the most visible, they're the most expensive, and you get very little
Reimbursement.
so to speak.
Right.
And there is reimbursement for windows, for school windows. From my understanding, I don't know if Chris Cycley's still there. Chris, is it the state pays for the windows and we do the installs? Is that how it works?
I thought that
He's
was
out there.
Yes. Nope, I'm still here. Yes, that's how that works.
Okay, so there's things like that. And and I really don't like, I've been working on this for 6 years, and this is, all of a sudden we want windows in with this, and we're going to change the whole approach at this. And I don't think it's an approach that's going to work, because I think that we always run into opposition when we become omnifocused on just school side or just town side. But that's just me, and I'm going to open it up to the committee.
Can I raise a question, Donna, Tim?
Tim?
One of the interesting things about windows is it's never just windows, because you have univentilators in some of the schools. And when you open up one thing, you have to deal with some of the other things. So there's an additional expense there. And it'd be crazy to open it up twice if you're going to wait to deal with the HVAC stuff in those rooms. And I suspect that later on, we're going to be doing more of that. But it's also, we talked about this issue several weeks ago about the amount of money that we would be throwing into a referendum. To put windows in, we'd be putting in an enormous amount of money. And I think it's a tough one to pass now. I think it'd be impossible to pass if we lump it up. Even to get something good, I don't think we're going to get what we want here.
Any more comments?
Yes, this is Scott.
Scott, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, to Charlotte's point, I understand it might be more palatable for somebody to vote for it if we took just 2 schools or whatever. The problem with that is the 2 worst schools, coincidentally, are in the same third of the town. So it would not really play to the town and to all the town facilities like the library, like the senior center, et cetera, if we were to just pull the same 2 schools out that affect a third of the same town, because they're sister schools, unfortunately, Hazardville and Eli Whitney. And though, as a parent who lives in that section of town, wants to see those 2 schools fixed, it doesn't play to the other 66% of the town.
Any other comments?
Yeah, Melissa's off.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Yeah, I think I want it to be everything, but I tend to accept the analysis that one thing is the best in terms of the mood of the voters. And I also think we've talked a lot about how a few things at a time means a referendum every year until we're all in the senior center. And so on balance, I think the way that Jeff has framed
Some
it
of us are
is-
already at the senior center.
I understand, so to speak. So I think Jeff's approach is what I think has the best shot and the best value.
And as we'll discuss later in the agenda, you know, what windows are, I did send out the spreadsheet so you could see that, you know, it's $5.5 million to do all the windows. And then you've got to escalate that for 4% over the past, what is it, 7 years?
That's correct.
So we're starting to look at, you know, a pretty good chunk of change there. So any more on just, you know, the referendum? How Jeff has presented it. All right, well, we'll see if it moves forward and what happens as time will tell. Okay. So energy performance contract. New information, we already went over that. Clean energy, Melissa? We haven't met again, clean energy, since the last time, but.
Yeah, I mean, our intention has been to dovetail with the Green Bank presentation to council that Kasha was setting up. And
Okay, do we have any date on that tentatively, Melissa?
you were going to ask Kasha.
Okay,
No.
I have to ask her.
Sorry.
Thank you. I'm
We don't
going
want to
back,
look,
you know.
don't want to look
I
too
know.
smooth here.
Knew there was something I needed to do, Melissa.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. And I can do it if you want. We can talk. So, because we want to give them some sense of the several options, but
Right.
the Green Bank's power purchase agreement is a turnkey, doesn't cost us anything or cost us less. They do the work option. So I think coordinating with staff and coordinating this briefing so that it's complementary to, but doesn't confuse things around the referendum is what we need to do. And we've already learned that the 2020 Green Bank, you know, funding and partnerships is already taken care of. So what we need to do is get into their queue for 2021.
Okay.
So I would think that what we should be doing is first get the roof referendum set and then see if we could do a renewable energy presentation in mid-September.
All right.
And by the way, Jaime texted me that he's very sorry not to have made this meeting. He was working late.
Okay. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, folks. Does that all sound okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Could I chime in for one quick second and kind of comment on the solar real
Sure.
quick? You know, I like what Melissa's saying, because when you put panels on a roof, that takes the sun off of it and you get more life usually out of it. I mean, I can't say it always happens, but just, you know, I like what she's saying, kind of help frame it around there. You solarize a roof, you get a little bit more life out of it. So instead of your, 25 years, you can get a little extra time because it's not getting the same abuse. The panels are taking the beating instead of the roofing material. And you're getting, some extra work. So just food for thought, throwing it out there.
Okay. Okay. Next item, H, the transfer station. The funding has been allocated for the design. And once that's allocated, it's not in our scope to do the design of that. So I would assume the DPW would take over doing that. Do I have an update on how that'll happen?
Yes, Donna, this is Donald.
Thank you,
so
Donald. I
tomorrow-
thought that's you were here for.
I was expecting some other discussion about the scales, but hopefully we'll just keep that in under wraps for now. But
Yeah.
Tomorrow, we should be issuing a PO to Anchor Engineering. We
Okay,
put in the requisition today as the monies are transferred over from, the finance department, put the money into capital, things like that. So now we're moving on that. The engineering company or Anchor Engineering's designer has already come here and taken out of our library everything that he thought he would need for the design. So he already has it at his building.
okay,
So he's already gone through this stuff. He's done his site visit. He's just waiting for the official PO to kind of officially get things started. And then hopefully tomorrow I'll issue that PO to notice to proceed and get it going. The goal is to have it done by February. So we can go out to bid and the like and have it ready for, we're trying to, I said, the goal is February. Now it sounds like a very long way away, but to go through deep environmental permitting is not going to be an easy task based upon, again, landfill closure. I know none of the area that we're trying to do isn't near it, but there's still a lot of things that need to be done for permitting and more so. When design comes up, we have to start thinking about, yes, the 1 scale, 2 scale thing, but again, also how things are going to sequence and happen during that time, during the construction. So if we actually, if we buy a prefab building, that's great, but you still got to build the supports and everything, utilities that go underneath it. So at some point, we may have to shut down or try to do it at different times. I mean, Mondays are available, which is really good. So we might try to plan some of the bigger shutdowns for those Mondays. And who knows what they're going to have for equipment. We may have cranes there, and I don't really want residents and other folks kind of coming in there if we have big cranes setting the scale as it's being moved or setting the building. They really don't belong there. And it's just, so again, it's some of those other considerations that we're going to have to take in effect as the design proceeds and as the.
all right. So, sometimes when people are doing like their kitchen over or they're putting an addition on their house, they're putting a kitchen addition on and they leave the existing kitchen up and running and the new kitchen gets put on and then they transfer over. When they do this design, will they look at the efficiency of where the main building, for lack of a better term to call it, is located?
Yeah, the scale house, again, there was a design done from Fuss and O'Neill a couple years ago that DEP approved. So I think we're going to go off of that and kind of run with that one. But they will be looking into the best place to site it. If there is 2 scales, then we need to look at a better way to get people from the hill down to the outbound scale instead of kind of traveling backwards and against traffic. So again, that's going to have to be decided. So again, they will be citing it accordingly, and again, based upon 1 scale, 2 scale. But right now we're proceeding as if it is 2 scales. So, but until I'm told otherwise, we are going to proceed with 2 scales. So.
Okay, will this be on the agenda for DPW on the 13th?
I thought tonight again it was going to be here, but I will make sure that I will ask Deborah if it's going to be on that, or however you want me to do it.
All right. Because basically, I guess we need to have a review of what the scope is of this committee, because there's certain things that we're supposed to do and certain things that we don't do. Like, we were the pre-ref for JFK because that was an assignment, and then went to the building committee. We're the building committee for roofs just because it's something that the state requires and it's easy to have one group do it repetitively. Performance contract, we did the whole thing. So with the help of Clean Energy. So it was sort of a joint effort, whether this will be a joint effort or an individual effort on, the DPW and the facilities. I think we have to be open to how do we best facilitate this. So.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be happy to work with whatever group is decided upon, and I don't want to, upset any group we'll do whatever you wish, and we will do the best of the project, and we're going to keep plowing forward. And
good.
I will.
Plowing forward is what we're looking for.
I'm going to plow forward. I don't know how much how receptive again the state is. I know the state is still working all from home as far as we know. And so contacting them is a little more challenging these days and trying to get some responses from them. But
Well,
fortunately,
I don't know. We have a lot of state projects going on. I'll tell you, Donald, and they seem to be very responsive. Everybody's out there. Everybody's working in the construction industry in the state of Connecticut.
Yep.
Connecticut, building and booming from what I see. So I
well,
think we should be all set on that end, I hope. And
yeah, the divisions
yes.
that I work with are receptive. I just don't know about this section of it. Again, the ones that we work with continually, because we have those connections already made. I hope that Anchor, who's been doing this a long time, has those connections and we can just reach out and just facilitate this and have this done by February as planned.
Okay, great. Because, it's really, I would really love to see water come out there and, a little bit better facility to the workers that are at the transfer station. Any more questions, comments, or concerns on the transfer station? I don't see any hands or any anxious people. Master plan.
I've been in touch with BL.
Yep.
I think they just need a date for when they're going to council so they can do their final presentation. It would include some changes to Alcorn, so I'm not sure if the committee would like to see what they have to say. I think they probably would.
Alcorn or the annex?
It was Alcorn.
Oh,
And they're
really?
going to do a little bit more vetting with the annex with some of the suggestions that were given. But they went in, and I highly suggest them to really study Alcorn as well. I think there's some.
Okay.
I think they didn't really address that properly. Say that fast. So
Okay.
If I remember right, Alcorn's drawings were kind of, they had level 2 looking for level 1 and stuff like that. They had issues with that, so.
They're missing a floor.
Yeah.
I submitted them, I gave them the proper drawing, so that part's fixed. They have the rooms labeled properly finally, so.
Well, then we probably should see that in early September, and it should come before the
Right.
council in late September, because I'd like to see what they've.
That's
They
what
have to
that's what I thought. So as soon as you, put them on the agenda and you have a feeling for, I'll tell them the plan for JFC early September. And then as soon as we get a date that you want to have them appear, I'll make sure John Ireland's well aware so he can
Right.
present.
My priority right now is to really try to sell this roofing referendum. Okay, any comments from the Joint Facilities Committee on old business or any business before we go to new business?
Donna, this is Scott. I have a quick question.
Sure.
So in addition to posting this meeting on the Joint Facilities Facebook page,
Yep.
May I also post screen grabs of the presentation that we all saw this evening? Just so somebody has a
Absolutely. I
chance
would,
to
anything
digest it.
that comes to us is public.
Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Yep. Absolutely. I
Good
think
idea.
Jeff's done a really good job.
We are on YouTube, so it's on YouTube. It's gonna be on channel 16, ETV, so yeah, definitely.
Yep.
No, I understand that this meeting is, but I just wanted to put the specific presentation up as well. That's all.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
I think that would be a good place for the presentation. Okay, new business, windows, the next step after roofs. And what's the state reimbursement are for schools? Well, we've already discussed the reimbursement is the state buys the windows and we do the installations. I know there's members that would like to see, roofs and windows done together. That would mean vestibules and doors as well, correct? If you do windows?
If we're doing windows, a lot of those windows would include the vestibules and the doors.
Okay.
Because they're Hazardville Memorial has a particular window system where they're kind of integral pieces. And at that point, some of the door work we can do on the inside. Some of the things have been done since the 2014 SBS report that Deputy Mayor is referencing. So But from the 2014 report and some of the other fun things that have happened in town, we are also very aware of some other new hurdles that we're going to have to approach when we come to these windows and masonry, CMU units, and expansion joints. So I've thought a lot about how we can approach this in a meaningful way. And I really think where if roofs 2020 passes, and I would love to see that go through. I think while that is going on, really pushing for aggressive yearly funding so we have a large chunk of cash to go in so we can do smart segments. And I'm proposing smart segments. And what I'm saying is we need to address the classroom areas over the gymnasiums and whatnot, because I can easily say there's no gym to the kids and, play outside or, have recess in your desk or something versus not being able to hold, school in a classroom. So, and I have some ideas. I've been kind of bouncing around. I've been talking with, Mark, I tell Donald a lot of crazy things, so I can only imagine. I probably sound like a crazy person in this office over here, but I got some ideas, and when the committee's ready for some expected layouts, I'd be happy to share them.
Okay, so let's take you back 20 years. These windows were all supposed to be done after the additions were finished. The windows that went in to replace would be the similar windows. When we look to do windows, is it still going to be similar to the addition that we put on? Those windows?
Well, the additions on the elementary schools that you're referring to? Yeah. They would still, yeah, depending on the time schedule, they would be ready for their replacement because they run a 25, 30 year, but they're in a better place.
No, I guess what I'm asking is, will the new windows match or be similar to what was put in for the additions, or there's
I would like to involve kind of like, an architect to kind of come in because there's a lot of different systems. So there's going to be a few things. We're going to have to try to mesh the facade. And a lot of those facades are being sister schools. We want to make sure it doesn't look out of place for the period of time. You wouldn't want to have like a super streamlined and look out of place. So we're going to try to blend it. I think they would very much mimic what's on the addition. I don't think it's, again, I haven't really looked at, the new window offerings, if you will. But, we can, I would try to stay something that would fit the building, blend as well as we can, and, make sure it's hitting, modern security requirements and energy performance, obviously, too.
Tim?
I have a question for Jeff. Looking at the similar schools like Whitney and Barnet and all that stuff, we start talking about windows. It's kind of like when I open up my house, my wife wants me to do a whole bunch of things that we started to do a window and we ended up doing the facade and doing a whole bunch of other things in here, moving heating and things like that. I'm guessing that would it be the same thing that we need to look at the HVAC systems because of the way we do it in schools, and they're not that efficient in terms of and they're very, very old. Should we be looking at that along with the architect, different ways to deal with that?
That's a very good point. And yes, so Eli Whitney, Stowe, Henry Bernard, they have hot water. I wouldn't really necessarily change that because hot water is a very efficient system for heating, especially with new condensing boilers. It's a good approach. When you get into a building that's steam, like Enfield Street School, Hazardville Memorial, there's a part where, you open up the walls, and yes, so the piping is going to be there. If you look at the age of the building, I'm not going to say what it is, but we all know what, we're going to run into, and you could have to address piping and all that other stuff. I've looked at Hazardville Memorial in more detail, and the cost to replace boilers and fix the piping, we could probably install brand new rooftop units and fully condition it with modern ductwork, exposed ductwork for the same cost, maybe slightly better, run natural gas, and have air conditioning. And we'd have a building that would be usable year round, completely conditioned, versus, a traditional New England school building looks like today, being built in the 50s and 60s. So you're right. These are things that I would look at, and I have looked at, and I'm kind of trying to grapple with it. I think the big target for Windows First, I would probably push for Hazardville Memorial as the first one to go, just because of that type of system. It's a window wall. So, it's the whole wall. That's what's kind of funny. They're quasi-structural, slash decorative slash infiltration. So yeah, there's a lot more to it. Those prices are good ballparks to work off of. But the reality is, where Donna said escalate 4%, it's probably more like 7 for those material, because it's more than just the window wall. And I would want to do my due diligence like we did for roofs, so I can give you a very good aspect on what something with that, and that's what I've been doing. So it's not just all roofs over here in my office. I think about what else we need to do, and yeah. So you're right. It's not just windows. It would be a window project with other things.
Would we also have to look at since they're mostly brick buildings, we'd have to look at the pointing of the brick and sealing of the brick, because that's been one of our long-term problems.
So a lot of those windows, if the sills are replaced or we reuse the sills, and again, this is where you want to engage an architect. They can kind of lead you in the right direction, and maybe we get away from like a sandstone or concrete sill and do an aluminum. I'm open to all suggestions. I think the big thing for me is when we pick a system, we want it to be one, cost effective. That means it's efficient, easy to maintain, and reliable, and we can get repeatable performance. And I'd want the systems to be the same. So, when it comes to parts, repair, it's the same system across town. And that's another strategy I've been harping on. We want same continuous parts, a same similar part stream. So it's a bigger plan. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about it, and I'd be happy to entertain anybody willing to listen to me about process flows, FIFO, and all that. I'd be happy to talk your ears off about it. But there's a lot to it, and please give me questions that I can more than happy give answers to you guys offline, other than these meetings, and we can definitely discuss it.
Thank you.
Any more comments? Questions, concerns?
Just a quick comment for Jeff to put in the hopper. When you talk about future buildings being powered by natural gas, we should not forget heat pumps and other renewable technologies that are becoming more realistic. Just put that in your pipe.
Yep, good.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That's
Good
part of our
point,
building
Melissa.
practices. We use the most efficient equipment that hits a lot of standards, and that's what I keep talking about. Effective products, not just being the cheapest or the most. We want effective. So I want to have something that has a good track record, and heat pumps are a very viable source. A lot of the new rooftops do have heat pumps with gas backup. Right now, the energy code kind of tells you have to have auxiliary heat, and you have 2 sources. That would make sense, gas or electric. I would most certainly not want electric heat. I'd want gas as my backup emergency heat when the heat pump can't perform. So yeah, it's always an option, and everything has a proper place and a proper application. I always keep that in mind. So when I have these engineers and consultants come out, I'd be happy to have you on one of my project scope meetings where I more or less beat these people up with my opinions and my viewpoints and what I want. What I see.
Yeah, I'll be very helpful in that meeting. I can't wait for that. Thank you, and I didn't mean to belabor this. I just was quick, intended to be
Very
quick.
welcome.
Any more? Charlotte? You sure? I'll share with you 2013, Matt Koppler brings this forward, and I said to him, Matt, why are you not renovating to new? And we went forward with the referendum, and in my opinion, we're doing this really the hard way, probably the most expensive way, but it's the way that we can do it. I mean, we don't have the capability of, I see other communities, they put forward and bring up a new school, and they do a cost value analysis and say, this building is going. And Enfield, I think it's important to reuse and to not just, demolish a building. And it's a very difficult process. And I think maybe early on, we became very focused on the roofs, in part because we had a lot of difficulty with roofs leaking and things like that. And I guess it became a priority to do the number one thing and then to pick at whatever else we had to do, and I think vestibules are important for safety. We've looked at, is there money out there for security for windows? And the answer is no at this point. That's what I've been told. I would love to hear something different, but we are eligible for our state money to purchase the windows. And there's a lot of things that we don't know about what's in the schools as we open up virtually a can of worms. So I just, I would love to be going out with more stuff, but I feel like I need to concentrate on roofs. So any more comments, questions, or concerns from the committee?
No, thank you, Donna.
Okay, I'll take a motion. Next meeting will be the 13th. And that's the meeting of the.
Okay, so, you're at committee comments? I have a committee comment.
Okay,
Chris
go
Likely-
ahead, Walter.
Hold on, what did Chris Likely?
No,
What was-
this is Scott. I was just saying, does Chris need us to meet earlier in August, like on the 6th versus the 13th? I think he was saying something to that effect earlier.
It would be a special meeting. This is our
I'm
next
still here.
regular meeting.
I'm not sure.
Gotcha,
Because
thanks.
what'll
Chris. Just
happen
wanted to
is
ask.
if Chris needs us, it will be a special meeting. It'll just have that one thing on the agenda.
Okay, just wanted to ask, thank you.
Correct.
Okay, so my comment, JFK committee picked a date for groundbreaking, September 14th, 6 p.m. So wanted to get that out there.
And hopefully everybody on the committee will be invited.
I'm assuming so.
Okay. And that's a
So
Monday.
they picked the date, so we have to accommodate and make do for that. So
Thanks, Walter. And that's coming really well from what I see.
yes, it is. They're doing an awesome job. Stealing Charlotte's word.
It
She's
is
not paying
awesome. It's
attention.
awesome to have two buildings that would be, renovated to new. I mean, there'll be like two brand new buildings.
Right.
But like Jeff keeps pointing out, time goes by really quickly. When you look at the fact that Enfield High is already 5 years old, it's just moves very rapidly, and we have to always plan for the future. So
While I'm unmuted, motion to adjourn.
Second.
I thought you guys are going to want to stay here forever. All in favor? All right.
Good night,
everybody.
everyone.
Good night. Stay safe, everyone.